at the age of 3 weeks, and my sister looked after her till the age of 2.5, till her mother came back from Auschwitz. And myself and another girl, a Jewish girl, who was staying with my sister. We went to live in a new little Hungarian place which was called Nagymaros.
Was it a village?
It was a little village next to the, it was really a nice little village. It was really a holiday place too, but they didn't live as a holiday place, they were living there. The men used to work for my brother-in-law. They were in furniture business, and he worked there in their shop, and very, very nice people, and his wife and children, and they offered help to my sister. My brother-in-law was not there then anymore. And they gave us, they had an extra kind of separate little, like a granny flat or something, and they gave that to us, which was one room and a kitchen. And there we stayed. We didn't go out. If we need anything, she bought us what we needed, which was minimal, because it was war and it was nothing there, and it was hard. But it was all right, because we stayed alive there.
Who all was living in the flat?
We lived, 2 of my sisters, one girl who was staying with my sister before, myself, and 5 children.
Where was your mother?
My mother stayed back in Budapest.
Why didn't she join you?
We couldn't, all of us. That was a maximum. But she wanted me to go because I was sick. And she thought I'm better off going with my sisters. But they couldn't go away anymore. But they got the Schutzpass, the Swedish ones, and they were in Swedish houses after then, and not even just a Swedish house, because Wallenberg helped, and they were in the Swedish hospital. And they were all working there. You know, my mother did the cooking, and the other part of the family, they all did something. And my father was there too, my sister-in-law, a lot of people in the family, they were all together. And we were in that little country town with 2 of my sisters and the children.
Your family back in Budapest got the pass and the strength of your sister
in Sweden.
In Sweden.
Yeah. Okay, later on, many people got it, because Wallenberg and Lutz, the Swiss consul, they started falsifying those Schutzpasses, and they helped as many people as they just could, and it was a great thing. But by December, January, they started picking up the Jewish people from the Swedish houses as well, and they took them to the Danube and they just shot them in. So it was a question of luck, who stayed alive and who didn't.
95. So your family had been protected in Budapest with the
Schutzpasses, Swedish Schutzpasses, yes.
And the rest of you were in?
And the rest of us, we were in Nagymaros, waiting for the liberation, which came earlier than the Budapest liberation. We were liberated in 1945, and I really can't tell you the exact date.
When was it? January?
It was around February, maybe. I really can't tell you.
Was it very cold still?
Oh, it was pretty cold, yeah. It was quite cold. But we still had some heating in the kitchen. Part of us were sleeping in the kitchen, part of us in the room.
How were you managing for food? What were you eating?
We were eating, we had some food. It wasn't so bad, it wasn't too much. Yeah, it wasn't too much. But it started getting less and less, because it was very hard to get food that time. And we couldn't go out. It was just the family where we stayed with that they get the food, so they couldn't, because people would get suspicious.
How did the children manage not to be out?
It was quite all right, because they were not alone, they were together, and they could play, and the bigger boys, they were around 10-ish, something like that. They went to get the water, because there was no running water in that place. And it's a funny situation. Even in the bad situation, when you are together and you are around, you try not to worry, to keep together, and be as happy as possible. It's not much to eat, but you can do that. You can do that. You can shut out a lot of things from your mind.
And is that what you were doing?
And that's what we did. You know, we were singing songs and playing with the children and having the baby with us. That was always a joy and happiness, because she was a very sweet little baby. And that's how we managed. And waiting and hoping that it will be over soon. Because there were rumors that the Russians are coming nearer and nearer, and then when it started we could hear the shells. We listened to it very happily. Doesn't matter, then it can cause damage even to us, doesn't matter. But that was for us nice, that they are coming nearer and nearer, till one day they came. And that's how we got free, kind of.
Did you have any communication back with your mother?
No, we couldn't. No way.
So you had no idea what was happening to the rest of your family?
Absolutely no idea, and they had no idea what's happening to us. It was a worry. We knew about that they are getting, they got the Schutzpass, and we were hoping that will help. But my brother, later on we knew that he was in Yugoslavia, in Bor, which was one of the worst places where they had the Jewish people. We didn't know exactly where he is, but we didn't know anything about him. And from my two sisters, they were there, their husbands, they were actually, after all, we knew that they weren't in very bad places, but we didn't know where they are. So it was a bit hard to shut out all that, but we tried just to be with the children and to have the best out of it.
It would have been very different for you being on your own?
I wasn't on my own, I was with my sisters and their children.
I'm saying it would have been very different for you if you had
very
been
difficult,
on your own.
very, very difficult, obvious. Because then you have with nobody to communicate. That way we were together, and anyway we are a very close-knit family. We always were, and what's left, we still are. We are very, very close to each other. And that helps. That made it easier. And then the Russian came. We still couldn't move. Budapest wasn't yet free.
Describe to me the liberation. What did it mean in the village?
In the village, we didn't know much about it. We still didn't want to go much out because we were afraid for the people that they were hiding us. But that girl who stayed with my sister, she was actually from Košice, from Slovakia, and somehow she could a bit communicate with them. And when they saw children, the truth is that the Russian soldiers, when they saw children, they tried to be very nice. Except one day it happened that one came and see us and see the children, and we told them that we are Jewish. So we were not with the Nazis. And they said, it doesn't mean a thing. You can be an enemy too if you are a capitalist. And most of the Jewish people were capitalists in Hungary, he told us. And we said, you can't say that most of them, some of them, but there are all kind, which was true. But they were very nice. They gave us food, they gave us bread, and by then it was no food, only what they gave us. You know, so we had to have one very thin slice of bread twice a day, nothing on it. And that bread was awful, it was like mud. But once in a while they brought us food, real food, and that was great. And then we had still some little apples, all frozen, and then my sister peeled it, and then every day another child got the peeling of the bigger one. The baby got the apple, and that's how it went, because the baby needed more food than the children. They will survive, even if the baby wasn't their children, but it was a baby.
So you were still staying inside the flat?
We still stayed there.
What was the name of the people who looked after you?
That was Mihai and Mariška Tot. Very nice people. They had children, and they told the children the children were not that little anymore. They didn't know exactly where we are. They said that there are some relatives from Budapest that they are hiding from the bombardments. But it was suspicious, but they didn't ask many questions, and they just kept quiet. The oldest one, that was really a bit suspicious, but he didn't want to endanger his parents, so he kept quiet, which was nice. Because some young people, they wouldn't care even their parents. If they know that they are Jewish people, they would denounce them. So that's the way we survived. After then, one of my sisters went back to Budapest with somebody, I can't even remember how it was, and to see what's happened to the family. And she came back with her husband and my other sister's husband, and stayed there, and then we knew what happened and how is the family, and they are all right, more or less. And in April, we went back to Budapest. And then when I found out that my father wasn't alive anymore.
When had he died?
Just in the very beginning of April.
April 1944?
1945.
45.
Yeah.
And he died of a...
He had heart problem before, but one nice thing happened to him before he died. My brother came back from Yugoslavia, from war, and he was very happy about that, because we always thought that maybe he will never return, because by then we knew he was somewhere where it was very bad. So that was a great happiness. But a few days after that, he just ran out of his medication. He didn't have any more. And one morning he got up, he didn't feel well, and just collapsed and died. And his funeral was one of the very first proper funerals in Budapest, because all the other ones, they just put them in a mass grave and later on excavated them and put them in the cemetery. But he was straight away, properly.
Was there a rabbi at his funeral?
That I don't know, I wasn't there. I doubt it. But it wasn't important. My brother could say the prayers. That wasn't a problem. And so it was the history of the family.
Then you returned.
We
You all
returned to
returned to
Budapest,
Budapest.
yeah. And then later on, it was nothing to eat in Budapest. So we went to a country town where we could have proper food.
Did you go as a family?
And family is the family, yeah. And in 1949, we left Hungary. We went first to Vienna. We had to stay there for a while where mother got sick, and I had to wait. The other sisters were already separate. Everybody went on his own way, but we all wanted to go to Israel, and we went. I arrived to Israel in 1950, the 7th of February, with my mother. My other brother was already there. And
so all your
there.
siblings, apart from your sister, in Switzerland?
Yeah. We all went there. And except the one who lived in Sweden, she didn't go either. Later on, she came for a while and she passed away in Israel actually, and she's buried there. Because her daughters, 2 of her daughters live in Israel.
Where were you married?
I met my husband in Israel. We were married in Israel in 1951. And I had my 2 children in Israel. First my daughter, Dorit, and then my son, Danny. And we stayed there till 1967. One of my sisters was already here because her son came here and she came after him, and she always asked, why don't we come too? I wasn't very happy about it. It's still a nostalgic feeling that maybe we shouldn't come away, but you never know. That's what's happening. That's maybe was our fate. We came here. My daughter was already 15 years old. My son nearly 11. And when we came, the children were very, very upset and desperate. We promised my daughter, if she finishes here school, and she still feels that she wants to go back to Israel, we won't be on her way, we will let her go. My son was only little, so he didn't have the same aspirations, but he was more unhappy than her. Because for her, we had an agreement, and she thought, okay, a few years, and I will be back. And that's exactly what happened. After she finished school, she was a very good student. She learned English very quickly, very well. She said, no, I go back. She even had, that time, university wasn't free. She had a Commonwealth scholarship. She could go to whatever she wanted, but she didn't want. She went back to Israel.
And that's where?
And that's where she lives now. She's married. They have 3 children. They are very happy there. She wouldn't change it for nothing.
And your son has stayed in?
My son is here. He stayed here. He studied here. He finished university, law and economics, but he never really practiced. He went into business, and he has quite a serious, big fashion house. And she's working in that. But still she has his diploma. And I always believe one studies, it's always for something. He always can use it. It's good for him. He was married, he has 2 sons, but he's divorced. and he has 2 boys.
And your husband passed away?
My husband passed away 3 years ago. Up till then, he was very happy here. He liked it. He was very happy with my son's success. We had retail business in clothing, and we gave it up 4 years ago, a bit more than 4 years ago. And then we started working a bit with my son. And he didn't feel well, he had problems with his heart, and after all the tests, they said that he has to have a bypass. Unfortunately, his body couldn't take it, and 3 weeks after the operation, he passed away. And so I am here, and if people ask me in Israel, why don't you come back, I say, it's no use. What I gain on one side and lose on the other. My son is here, my daughter is there. I try to see them as much as possible. I go about once a year to see them. And we are very close, and the children are very close to me, and we were always very close to them too, which is good. And that's the main reason to everything. I'm happy with it that I have good children and nice grandchildren, and that's the reason of life. And that's about it.
Is there anything more that you would like to say that I haven't asked you?
I can't really think of anything. I think that was the reason. I didn't want to have that interview. I thought it's hard to talk about it. It's quite emotional to talk about all those old memories and not very pleasant memories. Still, and I say it because my story is quite a simple story on its own. I wasn't in concentration camp. I wasn't in Auschwitz. Whatever happened to me, even if it was bad at that time, you can't compare to those people. They went through Auschwitz and the concentration camps. Even if they came back, they went through much more hardship than I ever did. So I didn't think that it's really important to talk about it. But my daughter, she said that I should, because every story is a story, not only the worst story. We should hear about it, but about everything. That's the reason of all that project. And so I decided, okay. And I told her that I'm doing that interview, and she was very, very happy about it. And she said she's grateful about it, not just for herself, but for her children, because they should know, and they should learn what happened to people, and especially to their grandmother. So that's all what I can add to it.
Thank you, Susan Avidan.
Thank you.
About the silver plate?
That was my father's. Actually, it was the silver plate that it was his glass, not glass, it's a silver, how do you say it? Goblet?
His Kiddush cup.
His Kiddush cup, yeah. And that was used for that, for his Kiddush cup on Friday nights when he said the Kiddush. That was underneath, and here are his initials.
J?
BJ.
BJ.
Biara Zurker Jacob.
Thank you. Could you can you identify the people in this photograph and give them date?
Yes, that was my father and my mother.
Their names?
Jacob Biala Zurker and Clara. They were my sisters and brothers. Should I?
Yeah.
Okay, that was the oldest, Armin, Shari and Ilonka, Mansi, Irene, Roji, Shani, and Bela. After then was born another sister and myself
When was the photograph taken?
in 1915.
And which was the sister who died in Auschwitz?
This one.
Thank you. And date the photograph?
That was my father, Jacob Bielacurkar.
And when would it have been taken?
I can't really remember because that was enlarged from a small photograph. It could be around 1940s something.
Thank you. Identify and date?
That was my mother, Clara, and
her
the
surname?
photo Bielacurkar, and photo was taken in 1940
In Budapest?
in Budapest.
Can you identify the people in this photograph?
Yes, this was my grandmother,
Her name?
my Neta Eisman, my mother, Clara Bielacurkar, my sister, Margit Ungar, and my niece, Judith Ungar. And the photo was taken in 1938.
And Margaret was your sister who died in Auschwitz?
Yes.
Was that her daughter?
That was her daughter. That was the fourth generation. My grandmother's oldest daughter, my mother's oldest daughter, and her older daughter.
Thank you. Can you date and identify?
That was my husband, George Avidan, in Hebrew called Giora.
And when was that taken?
That was taken about 4 years ago
In Sydney?
in Sydney.
Thank you.
That's my daughter, her
Name?
youngest, Dorit Eldar, her youngest daughter,
Her name?
Michal, and myself. And the photo was taken last year,
Where?
next to the Niagara Fall.
Thank you. Yes?
That's my eldest grandson, Eyal, and he was in the army, and the photo was taken in Jerusalem.
And his surname?
Raz,
And when was it taken?
about 2 years ago.
So about 1993?
I can't really. Yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
That's my granddaughter, Liron Eldar. She was in the army too. And it was about the same time, about 2 years ago it was that too.
So it's taken about 1993.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's my youngest granddaughter from my daughter. Her name is Michal Eldar. And I can't remember when it was taken, not so long ago.